Hello, and welcome to Website Performance with Varnish, Redis, and New Relic. In this workshop today, we are going to learn about all things performance on Pantheon. We're going to talk about things you can do to help boost your performance in general, and also things that you can do to monitor your performance over time. So let's begin with some brief introductions. First of all, hello, my name is David Needham. I'm a developer advocate at Pantheon, and I spend the majority of my time working on our training material, creating new classes and workshops, and then occasionally I get the pleasure of also leading a workshop like I am here today. So I'm very happy to be here. I come from a background of working with both Drupal and WordPress, which are the two content management systems that Pantheon supports officially. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here today. So let me get into how you can participate. So whether you are attending directly in Zoom right now, or if you are live streaming from YouTube or Facebook, you can all interact using the same little chat window. Wherever you are, if you open up a chat or a comment and you leave a message, I will be able to see it right now and I can interact with you. And that's important because if you can make this class personal, if you can share the things that are important to you, if you can ask the questions that you've been really hoping to hear, then it will make this class even better for you, which is my goal. I want to make this as useful as possible, and I can only do that with your help. So don't hesitate, put a question in the chat window as soon as you can. I will be able to see that and can get back to you. Now, this is live workshop number 4, all about website performance, but this is not the only workshop we do each week. We also, just the previous hour, did a getting started with a Pantheon workshop where we learned the basics of Pantheon and web ops and Pantheon's workflow. We also, on the first Thursday of the month, do a command line interface with Terminus workshop, where we talk about Terminus, our command line tools, and what you can do to start scripting and automating some of those processes. We also have a workshop on the second Thursday for Quicksilver, which is all about tapping into Pantheon's existing workflows and also automating, being able to apply scripts to those workflows so that you can talk to third-party APIs and have things happen when things are automatically happening in Pantheon. And then finally, on the fourth Thursday, we also have Going Live Best Practices, which is a workshop all about helping you take your website live. We go through the best practices rather quickly and make lots of time for you to ask questions and get additional help with whatever it might be that's holding you back from launching your website on Pantheon. So let me go ahead and jump on in with what we're going to be talking about here today. First of all, Pantheon is a website operations platform. And at a high level, WebOps streamlines how work gets done through agile tools and processes. Now, we're going to be talking about some of these agile tools as we go through the workshop today and how we're keeping your website running quickly. And the processes are also in there. So again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about how performance works, if I don't already cover that. First of all is Varnish. Caching, by simply caching working on your website, it means that you're getting less traffic hitting the server. This is important because it means that it actually frees up their performance, the bandwidth, or not really bandwidth, but the processing power, the things that are actually running on the server for your logged in users. So caching immediately benefits your anonymous visitors, people who are visiting your site who aren't logged in, just reading or whatever it is they're doing on your website, but it also immediately helps your logged in visitors as well by freeing up the space for them. So at a basic level, this cache content and these processes are stored from cache servers. So if we take a look at this full page cache, this is an example. This graph actually came from New Relic. It is showing right now what happens in New Relic when you enable caching. So immediately it goes from lots of traffic hitting the server to no traffic hitting the server. It's all being served up directly by our global CDN. Pantheon's global CDN is in partnership with Fastly. We have over 65 points of presence all over the world, which make it possible to serve up your website in a place that is geographically close to the person trying to view it. This is important because we've proven that even with fiber optics, even with the huge pipes going across the oceans, if the place where the content originates is geographically close to the person trying to access it, it will be substantially faster. In some cases, each individual transaction, it'll add up to be quite a bit over time. When we rolled out global CDN a few years ago, we also rolled out free HTTPS, so everyone gets that as well. And then that all happens automatically. You just get HTTPS with every environment, with every website on Pantheon. Now, there are some things you should know about Varnish's full page cache. It does cache the entire page output. So if you have like a headless website or decoupled website, then you're still able to access that from the cache. It's still able to be responding to JSON or whatever type of request you might be serving. It does abide by the headers, which means if you take a look at the headers of your what the website's responding with, you'll be able to get some information about what is being cached or even debug problems with your caching. But it can be busted by cookies. And by that, we mean there are cookies on your website that just happen naturally as you add modules and plugins. And depending on exactly what they're named or how they're configured, they could be intentionally or unintentionally breaking the cache. There are some times, like with a shopping cart, where it might be intentionally trying to break the cache because it thinks that's a good idea, even though there are better ways to do that. So it's something to be aware of. If caching is not working for you, you should probably take a look at your cookies because that's the number one culprit most of the time. But how do you know if your cache is working? Well, if you take a look at your headers, which you can do with a curl -I followed by the URL to your website, you'll get a whole bunch of information sent back to you. When you look for it, look for the age section. With an age, you'll see age, and then it should be a number. If age is 0, it means your cache is not currently functioning on that page, and that's a problem. You should expect to see an age with some number that is greater than 0, and if you run the command again, the number should get bigger over time to show that the age is increasing. You can also look at this to get other information about the caching settings to see like how long the cache is supposed to be set for and things like that. And unfortunately, it does not tell you what cookies might be blocking this or why the cache is not working. That is something, unfortunately, that you have to debug yourself. But I recommend starting with the Google Chrome, Google Inspector. You can open that up, take a look at your cookies, and get some ideas in there what might be responsible. Now, we do also recommend Pantheon Advanced Page Cache on every website, whether it's Drupal or WordPress, because it allows your website to talk more discreetly with our global CDN. The common scenario is, maybe you have blogging functionality on your website. You let someone blog, maybe your customer, maybe your boss, who knows, and they write the blog post, but they make a typo. So, after they click save, they have to oh, I need to edit it. So they click edit, they fix the typo and they click save. But when they view the website on their phone, it still shows the typo. And they're confused. And so they ask their colleague, and they look on their computer, but no, it's broken on their computer too. But it's but I see it correctly on my computer, and I'm logged in. And it's at that point that you have to explain to them caching. You can, describe how it works and explain that, well, caching is very important. It means that, we're serving up this old version for as long as we can because it will speed up traffic. It'll make the experience better for our visitors. The problem, though, is depending on the nature of that typo or what information it is that you're trying to get across, you may not want that to be cached. So the solution is that you have to clear the cache, which is a problem when you're doing it at that level because it means that you're sort of going the nuclear option. You're clearing the cache for the entire website, slowing down the website for everyone else that's visiting the site until the cache bounces back. And unfortunately, that's something that you kind of have to do every time that something like that happens. Well, Pantheon Advanced Page Cache gives you a closer look. It essentially makes it so that every time you save a piece of content, the global CDN is aware what pages that content will show up on. And over time, if that content changes, it can really, in a very particular way, just grab only those particular pages that have changed, the ones that feature that content, and selectively clear those separate from the main cache. The reason why this is important is because you immediately get to see that change. You don't get that situation where, oh, it looks different on mine versus my colleagues or something like that. It immediately refreshes the page so that the typo is gone. And it also means that all of the other pages on your website don't also have to have the caches cleared. So that's very important. There's also Object Cache. This full page cache provided by Redis is the tool that we're using, is I'm sorry, not full page cache, but object cache. There are two different things. Full page cache was Varnish, which is what we were just talking about a moment ago. Object cache with Redis is what we're talking about now. And the situation with Redis is that your logged in traffic doesn't benefit from Varnish. I mean, I mentioned at the very beginning that they do benefit from Varnish only because they are offloading system resources to the cache layer. So people, anonymous visitors to your website are not taking up the same resources as your logged in people. But the rest of the pages are still not cached for our logged in people. So Varnish, I'm sorry, not Varnish, but Redis is a tool. Object Cache is a tool, a feature that will allow you to cache your the experiences for your logged in traffic as well. It'll make it so that the pages that take a lot longer to render more quickly. And when people are clicking around the website in a logged in mode, which wouldn't typically be cached, it's also able to happen much faster. The way that it works is actually sitting between MySQL and PHP and caching those database queries, as well as the responses that are sent back. This means if something changes over time, it's able to automatically update itself and serve the response from memory instead of having to go out and do the query itself. So this is much, much faster than a typical database query, and it speeds up the experience for your logged in people. All right, we also have New Relic. New Relic APM in particular stands for Application Performance Monitoring. We provide Pantheon access to New Relic APM Pro, and this gives you a look at your application containers that are running on Pantheon to see how things are running and give you some ideas on what might be going slow or causing your website to be slow. So we can take a look at that. If you jump into New Relic and jump into an environment, you'll see something like this. It's a dashboard that shows you what the various requests are for your website on the whole, and it will break that out into different metrics. So you can see that represented in the graph and several other graphs. I should say real quick though, that the New Relic interface has changed a couple times. They're updating it pretty frequently right now. And so this screenshot may not look accurate anymore. That is to be expected, and it's okay. The information is all still there. It's all still relevant. It's just things are a little bit different. Now, I want to highlight up on the upper right, the section where it says Abject Score. The Abject Score is a representation of your customer, or not your customer, but your visitor satisfaction on your performance for your website. And we do that by setting what a normal response time should be. And then it's scoring that based on what an actual response time is. So on a scale of 0 to 1, how happy are people with your speed? They're not actually, surveying your visitors, but you can assume that if this is normal and your website is faster than that, it's, the speed is lower, then people are probably going to be pretty happy with that. If this is normal and all of a sudden it's much, much slower than usual, well, they're not going to have a very happy experience, and you want to be notified about that. But it's important that you set your threshold. The default is half a second for a server to respond to whatever request it might be. And so you have to go and look at what your current values are for a response time, what's normal, and set that to your threshold in order to make it an accurate report. Based on this, though, you can set up alerts to tell you when something isn't going the way you'd expect. You can get alerts for anything that's happening in New Relic, including the Abject Score. And then when an alert is happening, when an incident is happening, you'll get this peach-colored background to show you specifically when it started, when it stopped, and then what's happening in between. So you can jump in and see exactly when you had a problem with performance. And then it will also generate a transaction trace, which we don't have here on the screen, but a transaction trace will show you what specifically is responsible in code for the slowness. So sometimes that can be very revealing to tell where a piece of slowness, a slow query, a slow response is happening on your website. So besides New Relic APM Pro, we also give you access to New Relic Browser. You can jump in and get your front-end performance. This is everything that you're getting from the APM, the application container, in addition to everything else, so the actual browser rendering and all of that. We also give you access to New Relic Synthetics, which is sort of like a super-powered ping test with uptime monitoring and things like that. So we recommend checking it out, especially if you want to be notified about any downtime on your website. So this is available. New Relic is available on every website. It says every performance website, but it's also available on sandbox sites. And this is really cool because it means you can migrate your site into Pantheon. You can keep it on a sandbox site. You can try it out with New Relic, see how the speed handles it. And then when you go on, if basic is no longer appropriate, if you don't think you'll benefit from New Relic or the other tools like Object Cache that you get with the performance tier, then it's okay. You just pick basic and everything's fine. If you do need those features, you can pick performance or above and you'll get them. So it's as simple as that. All right, again, I just want to remind everyone that you can ask questions by using the little chat window. It is a great way to get more information about whatever it is in performance that you might want to know. Performance is one of those topics that is very deep. We don't really have time to get into every little detail, but I'm happy to touch on something that might be relevant to whatever it is that you're hoping to learn about here today. While we're waiting for any questions to come in, let me just share a little bit about what we have here in the more resources slide. So I've shared this with you in the chat. You can grab that if you want more resources. You can watch last month's video for this particular workshop, and you can go in here and leave feedback. This is very important because it tells us at Pantheon what you think about this workshop and what we can do to improve it. I mentioned at the very beginning that this workshop, or really all training workshops at Pantheon, is something that I'm responsible for. I spend a lot of time working on. And so any feedback that you can share to make our workshop better is very appreciated. If anything was bad, if anything was broken or just was unclear, let us know that so we can make it better. Also, if this was really good, if you felt like I did a great job, please let us know that too so we can keep doing things like this. And then in the resources section, you can find a lot of ways to dig deeper into various topics related to performance on Pantheon. And then there are lots of ways to keep learning after today. In particular, I'm going to point out the Pantheon office hours. If you have questions about caching or performance issues, you can always come to Pantheon office hours every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central to ask your questions and get help from a real person like myself on a Zoom call where you can actually unmute yourself and share your screen if that's even helpful. So 1 p.m. Central every Wednesday. You can check it out by clicking the link from your More Resources link, and that will take you right to it. So with that, I don't see any other questions coming in. So I just want to thank you all very much for attending the workshop today. I genuinely hope it was useful for you. If you have any other questions, you can always hit reply to any of the training emails you've received from Pantheon, or just email training@pantheon.io, or check it out on the More Resources link that I shared. With that, I just want to say thank you again very much.